Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Collective Intelligence Block Party number 23. Wow, we're all grown up. What happened? And very excited to see you all. We're about to kick off the Food Healers segment, and I first wanted to make some general comments about the conversation, which is a network of conversations of which this is a part, and the lounge, which is the point of entry to the conversation, to the whole network. And so the idea is that this room be the lounge, and we create breakout rooms for the specific topic meetings. If there's only 5 of us here and it's early in the morning, hey, we don't need to go breakout rooms, but that's the idea. And again, the main function of the lounge is to welcome people with particular sensitivity to people who've never done this before. And that's the vast majority of people. And here's the thing, the 5 of us on this call are a great example of people who are comfortable inside their own skin, confident in what they are up to in life and what they have to say. And if they have a question, they're confident about asking that question, even if we're recording, even if we're broadcasting, whatever. Oh, speaking of which, are you guys okay with if we live stream? I'd like to get the live stream. Okay, cool. All right. Live streaming.
I would be insulted if you didn't live stream.
I know, Brett, I'm so sorry. Goodness, I just a couple minutes late on the live streaming.
What kind of ragtag outfit is this?
I know, exactly. So anyway, so people who are, I just fed the crows and now they're asking for more. They've learned this is a sanctuary, so now they're bringing more and more of their youngsters. Anyway, but the vast majority of people have not done this kind of Zooming with people, certainly with people they don't know. Maybe they've gone to a family reunion. Okay, hey, Auntie Jane. Okay, great. But it's not recorded. It's not public. It's not broadcast. It's none of those things. And we have to really, think about this, because when we go around to these different meetings, whether it's World Unity Week or, a big event Silas puts on, or, the block party itself or whatever, you see how we keep seeing the usual suspects, right? And that's because we're still a very tiny minority, those of us who are confident enough to get out there. And it's some funny combination. I mean, I think it's worth taking a minute to talk about this, because for me, this is the foundation of making Food Healers a success, is that we get mass participation first in the conversation, right? And then in the different volunteer efforts and whatnot that I'm super excited to talk about. But anyway, just wanted to make that plug for us really expanding this and getting everyone in here. And so I see you've got your hand up, and Misha, welcome, Misha. But what I wanted to point out is that one of the things that I think we have a tendency to perhaps fall into unconsciously is, and I'm not going to call it elitism, but it's in the direction of elitism, where it basically goes, hey, if you're smart and cool and dialed in and networked, then you're welcome here. And if you're not, then, this really isn't, and we need to get rid of that completely. All right, we've got 2 hands up, and first So, followed by Brett. Go for it, So. And so I'm going to ask you to please just speak direct and clear into the microphone, just like we talked about last time, so we can hear you. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, let's try it out, but so far so good.
So you can hear me, yeah?
Yes, So. Yes, we can. Thank you.
No, you can't hear me? Can you hear me?
We can. Affirmative. We can. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I've got a hoarse voice. I don't like elitism. And yet, on the other hand, I'm sort of ambivalent about it, because I go to lots of different meetings, especially in pre-lockdown, and I've got increasingly impatient with people waffling on, So I really like people to know what they're talking about. But on the other hand, I'm against elitism, so I just leave that with you.
You know, it's interesting. Okay, I'd like you to say a little bit more about this thing about liking to go to hear people who know what they're talking about, right? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think like I'm probably wrong on that, because even if somebody says a random, seemingly irrelevant thing as part of the conversation, because it's organic, nobody knows where it's going, it's random, that could be the chief inspiration that's going to happen. So I haven't collected my thoughts on this, but I think, you know, like as it's been so far, you've got a lot of variety of people. I mean, you didn't know who was going to turn up, did you? You didn't know it was going to be me. You didn't know it was going to be Rebecca or Brett or whoever. But yeah, I do get fed up of waffle. I mean, a friend of mine, she used to be, it might not have been good for people in some ways, but she used to be very strict in meetings. She just used to say, "Get on with it, spit it out." That was that was her slogan. And I've got a little bit of that in me, and I'm not proud of it, but I just want to say, yeah, you were saying that, get on with it, spit it out.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And here's the thing. So, in terms of this, I'm just going to say it in the way that makes sense to me. That the whole idea of a whole network of conversations is precisely so that you can have rooms where people can go if they just want to talk and share ideas and just connect and all that. And it can be very, for lack of a better word, lowest common denominator. Why not, right? And if Silas wants to get together with some other brilliant PhD electrical engineers and design the next green circuit to power video conferencing for the world or something like that, they can do that too, right? And in fact, if they want to make it invite only, they can make it invite only, right? Why? Because they want to have a focused meeting. Nothing wrong with that. So the whole essence of a network of conversations is that you can have all the above. You can have very focused meetings with, you know, people with whatever the right expertise or whatever, or simply an invitation to join, and others that are just totally general, totally open, right? I hope that conveys, right? Because that way we let everyone in. And even if 90% of the people start off at basic level conversations, great, no problem, right? I don't like to think in terms of hierarchy, but you could think of it as sort of like a pyramid. And then as they learn more and get deeper into this and that, they kind of move up the pyramid, right? But it's not an exclusive thing. In other words, there's total mobility. It doesn't matter about pedigree or age or wealth or anything like that. So there's no discrimination. It becomes sort of a meritocracy within the conversational domain. And it may be a tough balance, but we've got to find the balance, because as long as we remain a tiny minority, our power is going to be very limited, right? Gandhi, who Silas has studied extensively, appealed to everyone, right? And that worked brilliantly. Brett, you've had your hand up for a couple of minutes. Thanks for your patience. Go for it.
Constance joined us if you want to welcome them, Jim and
Oh, thank you.
Harris.
Thank you. Constance. Yes, welcome, Constance. Feel free to say hello. We're all doing great, and we are recording.
Hi.
Yes. Hey.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good. And you?
I'm great, thanks.
Awesome. Where are you calling from, or connecting from?
I'm connecting from South Africa.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think that's where we were just talking about Gandhi, and I think that's where Gandhi got a big start in his work in South Africa, precisely. Well, I think
okay.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we've had someone from South Africa, um, here on the Block Party. You are absolutely welcome here. Great to see you. And we've also got the Philippines in the
you.
house. Yeah. hmm
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're recording and broadcasting, and we were just talking generally about, Ben, Brett, did you have more to say?
I had a couple questions, but they can wait if we want to just bring Constance in or anything.
Oh, no, we're fine. I generally don't put people on the spot, especially if they're off camera. I just kind of let them chime in when they,
Okay.
but yeah, so yeah, go for it, Brett.
So I just wanted to reflect back what I understand and ask some questions about some of the structure of the conversation or the intentions at this beginning point. Number one, is the conversation now happening on X days per week, like Fridays and Saturdays, 24/7? Maybe I could just ask you a couple of questions and you can answer them one by one instead of me just continuing, like, you mean short answers or long, whatever. So let's just start there. Like, literally, is it now that Fridays and Saturdays or something is the conversation, and the Block Party is officially translating, like, next week it won't be called the Block Party, it's just the conversation?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, the conversation at present is happening Monday through Friday from 12 noon Pacific time until as late as people feel like going, right? And the goal is that the conversation become 24/7. And in terms of the Block Party, so if you think of it, if we really embrace this idea of a network, the Block Party becomes a sliver of that network that happens during 1/7 of the 24/7 period. And it's kind of like just one big event happening in New York City. It's kind of like New York City. Think of the network as New York City. There's on any given week, there's gazillions of things going on. And one point, and just assume there's one point of entry, the Brooklyn Bridge, let's say, right? That's where you enter Manhattan. Hey, welcome. There's this big lounge on, the east side of Manhattan or whatever, and that's where everyone lands. And then you learn about everything that's going on and you go from there.
So you're going to be in this room Monday through Friday, starting at 12 p.m. Pacific yourself, at least minimum 5 days a week.
Actually, no, not me, but someone will be here.
Someone.
And the reason I say that is because I just need to be responsible for my own health and how many dozens of hours per
Of
week.
course. So have some people signed up to be those compassionate stewards or whatnot? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We call them hosts. We're just calling them hosts for now. And Peter is doing a heck of a job. He's been doing a lot of the kicking off of the meetings at noon, along with Diane and others. People are just joining in because they see the power and the magic of this. Yeah. Keep hitting me with the questions.
Okay, so you've got Monday through Friday starting at 12 p.m. Pacific. We have, clearly there needs to be breakout rooms immediately available because this has to be the lounge, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So there should also, so therefore there needs to be a sort of general breakout room where people may not know what they want to talk about, but they also don't want to clog up the lounge, so to say, right? So there has to be a sort of, like you're saying, a general meta breakout room where maybe I guess there's no facilitator in those rooms, right? That hosts don't have to be in breakout rooms, do they?
No, the hosts, well, we definitely need a host per lounge, for the lounge. For the breakout rooms, for example, let's say this one was on food healers. Let's say Silas was leading that discussion in a breakout room. Silas would be essentially the de facto host for that breakout room. So Jamin's hosting in the lounge, Silas is hosting in the breakout room on food healers, etc.
Right. Cool. I think we might want to consider having a light structure and saying, like, breakout rooms can be open, closed, or semi-permeable, like you were saying, like, and define them. Open is whatever, anyone can join under any conditions. closed is invite only. And again, it's only because people might want to focus, not for really segregation. And then semi-permeable is, I don't know, that's usually you've answered a couple of questions or you have a reason, like, you know what's happening or why you're there, compared to just open where things are always happening and you don't know who's going to come in and what they're bringing and what conversation they want to have. And so do you have any, and then do you have anyone that's shown up that likes to build websites yet that might be able to help with the conversation website and getting that, you know, sorted out so we can catalog some of these conversations and come up with some kind of, I don't know, way to navigate the recordings or something?
The short answer is yes, but we haven't really dug into that yet. And part of it is that, you know, I've just been so kind of busy just getting the baseline going that I haven't really, you know, had time to dig into some of these specific projects, which I can't wait to do. But my general thinking is this: let's just keep bringing more and more people in to the network, to the conversation. And, you know, as we go, we can increasingly have a breakout room called volunteers and projects that need to be done, you know, for people who just want to, hey, I get it, you know, now let's do it, right? And what needs to be done. So that could be an example.
Cool. Yeah, I'm good for now. I'll open up the space to other people.
Sure. Let's see if we got questions in the chat. Let's see. All right, Misha asks, have people already stated their whys clearly? And Jamin, are you with the THC 2020 or Unify team? I'm kind of with both, Unity Earth and the Harmonic Convergence, and, you know, a bunch of other good stuff. And have people already stated their whys clearly? That's a great question. And everyone here who I know who's been here before has stated their whys clearly, like why are we here, etc. And feel free to state yours. And meanwhile, Constance, you raised your hand, right? Okay, maybe you put your hand down. That's fine. All right. So anyway, we'll just be kind of doing it as we go. It's just one of those things where you kind of need to, feels to me like you need to leap first, even before you really look at what you're leaping into. Because for me, the long and the short of this, Misha, I'm going to go ahead and mute your phone because we're getting a little bit of feedback there, or you can do it. Thank you. Humanity simply needs to come together, right? And, you know, the Beatles have been singing songs about that since the 1960s and many others. But, you know, now that we have both, you know, a layer cake of about 17 layers, each one is extreme urgency, right? And that we have the technology and that we're all grounded at home, now is the time. So we just got to do it, right? And that's why we just jumped in and said we're starting the conversation, even though we don't have a whole bunch of stuff mapped out, right? And we're gonna, you know, break some vegan eggs in the process. We're breaking some right now. We're supposed to be talking about food healers, but instead we're talking, you know, I'm kind of droning on and on and on about the conversation. Well, great, Jamin. Can we actually have a conversation about what we're supposed to have a conversation about instead of just having this endless conversation about the conversation? Anyway, so with that, why don't we shift gears to food healers? Do we want to put into practice, create a breakout room for food healers and just try it out? I mean, I hate to not be in that conversation. Or we could, you know, we could just go for 20 minutes here, and then, you know, we could try both. But why don't we just start here and jump in? Silas, why don't you kick us off? I seem to be kind of going around in circles here, so go for it, Silas. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning and good evening, no matter where you are. thank you for joining. So I wanted to, this is the segment that we talk about food healers and what has happened over the past week in food healers. In the food healers, the very idea came from the fact that we're in a great economic disruption because of the COVID-19, and a lot of people are going hungry as a result. And unless we address that directly, bad things are going to happen. So we know that, so knowing that, we decided to form this initiative where we are connecting people who have the ability to provide food with those who need food. So there's one concrete initiative that's happening right now where there are 400 families that are food insecure in the Tempe area. So we are working with a school to provide them with a box of food. And so the update I want to tell you this week is that the coordinator of that whole initiative, her family fell sick. So her sister got COVID-19, her niece got COVID-19, and her dad got a stroke. So she's very much, in her personal trauma at the moment. So that has set us back a little bit. Now she's saying, instead of July 20th, let's shoot for August sometime, until I sort this all out. Yeah. And meanwhile, we have placed the orders for the items on her list, and they are all coming in. So on Monday, we are going to be collecting the cereal from the store and transporting it to the school on Monday and Tuesday. But we thought that everything was going to be put in boxes on Monday, and then we'll be distributing it. But it's going to be postponed. So that's one thing I wanted to tell you. And then I was thinking about this idea of unity stew and how if everyone is cooking the same thing or everyone is eating the same thing, it brings unity among the community, right? And then I was looking at the ingredients, the list of items that she's asking for in the boxes, and it's rice and beans and potatoes. It's saying, hey, these are the ingredients for a stew. So why not, create these bags that are basically ingredients for a stew? So you can cook it at home if you want, but you will have enough ingredients there to make stew for 100 meals. With just a couple of pounds of rice and beans, we can make a lot. So so I was looking at the ingredients that I use for the stew that Kimaya loves, and it is beans and pasta or rice. I'm sure she'll be perfectly fine if I substitute pasta for rice, and potatoes and onions. And so I'm going to suggest to Valerie, why don't we just start adding those things in the box so that it becomes an ingredient for a stew and we can all be cooking it simultaneously. So this way, actually, with just one box, you are providing maybe 100 meals. It's pretty efficient. So that's one thing that happened from our conversation last week. So, just thinking about these ideas are all coming together slowly, right? So unity stew it is. Yeah, what do I put in Kimaya's stew? I put onions, potatoes, whatever vegetables I have, carrots, whatever else, celery, whatever you have. And then I put beans, and then I put either pasta or rice, and I put some thyme and rosemary, some spice, some herbs, and a little bit of salt. That's it. And she loves it. She can eat it every day at every meal. So that's her favorite food, actually. And greens, of course. Yeah. We actually chop up greens and put them after we cook everything. So the greens are still raw. Yeah, even the the herbs, basically herbs are the greens.
Beautiful, Silas. May I screen share for a moment, because I want to
Sure.
just show this concept that we were talking about last week in terms of delivery. So on the screen here, you've got images of basically like this one on the right is like a food grade delivery truck. So imagine this whole tanker full of, you know, however many thousands of liters of stew, right? Fill it up with stew that's cold, obviously totally sanitized. I mean, this is ready for Silas to transport chemicals to go into a clean room or something like that. But now I'm sorry I mentioned chemicals. Scratch that, the record.
That's all right. You know, we know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're full of stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Misha.
Water is a chemical. Water is a
Yeah. Totally. All I'm saying is totally clean. I mean, you know, sanitized at the beginning of every shift and all that. So imagine this truck is now full of this stew, but at a cold temperature, right? Why at a cold temperature? So the bacteria doesn't grow, so that you can drive around for a couple hours, no problem. It's not like it's degrading, right? Because then all that people need to do is heat it up. Simple. Anyone can heat stuff up, right? And if your stove's broken, go to your neighbor's, right? But the missing ingredient right now is food, right? And we've been talking about this for weeks now. There's plenty of shelter. There's plenty of clothes in the world. There's plenty of stuff, right? What human beings are missing is simply the fuel. We're hungry. We need food. It's that simple, right? So imagine that we create, I'm just going to call it a factory or a large commercial food kitchen, whatever you want to call it. But ingredients come in, we chop, wash, chop, prepare, mix, blend, etc. The rice, of course, we'll cook the rice. You know, we'll cook the lentils, mix it all in. So now it's all ready to eat, right? You can eat it cold, you can eat it hot, doesn't matter. It's ready to eat, it's good to go. We just load truck after truck full of this liquid stew, right? Mechanically, it's a liquid, even though there's chunks of potatoes and all that and whatnot, it flows, right? It's a fluid. And therefore it lends itself to this bulk transport and bulk serving, right? Truck pulls up in a neighborhood, everyone come with your own container. We will fill you up, right? And we just deliver the stew. Universal Stew, US, right? And then last night, Melissa pulled some kale out of the garden. I love making these kale smoothies, put it into the blender, fresh from the garden, blended it up, started drinking it. I'm like, you know what? Everyone should have these nutritious green kale smoothies. BJ is saying more greens. Okay, I was like, okay, BJ, and okay, you convinced me. And, you know, and at the same facilities that we're making this stew, we could have giant blenders just blending up smoothie. And then you deliver that in a separate compartment. You want some green smoothie? Here you go, right? It's immune boosting, full of vitamins, etc. And then one other thing that Melissa added is bread, loaves of bread, right? Stew, bread, smoothies. But, you know, but stew is the basis. Like let's even if we had to start with one thing, it would be exactly that stew that Silas is talking about, right? Bulk delivery. And if we do this in one city, the cat will be out of the bag and people will see, oh my goodness, this works. Suddenly there's no hunger. You know, hunger has been eradicated in St. Louis, Missouri, right? Period. And of course, if there's some family where the daughter has some, you know, exotic food allergy, of course we're going to bring her special stuff, right? You know, so we'll take care of everyone. And once food is eradicated in St. Louis, Missouri, everyone will say, wait a second. If they can do this in St. Louis, they can do it in Houston. They can do it in Tempe. They can do it in London. and suddenly you're going to see Universal Stew, right? Trucks everywhere. Everywhere. There's not a single place on earth that should not have this service, right? In fact, when we were first pioneering the community cafe idea, which we pioneered in Southern California, making, but the people then had to come to the food, all right? Now it's like a community cafe on wheels. But with the community cafe idea, we had the idea of assembling these 40-foot shipping containers that would have all the equipment needed for food processing, refrigeration, cleaning, whatever, all that stuff. Ship them to the various points around the world. That's kind of the starting point, followed up by continuous shipments of, grains and legumes and all those things that would go as the ingredients. But that's a side note. The infrastructure is there. We've got the infrastructure. We've got these massive commercial kitchens and food factories that are either shut down or operating way below capacity. So there's lots of capacity out there. There's lots of food out there. We just got to do it, right? Now, in terms of just doing it, I'm going to make another shameless plug for the conversation, right? So imagine there's now thousands of people pouring in saying, hey, we got to do this. Yes, we're here to help. We're here to help, right? We then organize them into breakout rooms, some that are focused on, the menu and exactly, what are the ingredients that are going into the stew. Another's focused on food production. Where are we getting these raw materials from? Traditional farming, or now this new local, non-traditional food production, community gardens, rooftop gardens, front yard, backyard, windowsill, etc. Right? Okay, so food production. Another is focused on financing. Another is focused on PR and marketing, getting the word out. Another is focused on volunteers. All these volunteers are coming in. What do we do with them? Okay, well, let's have a volunteer organization, section. So all of the, and now imagine that all of this is happening in one massive network of conversations that's integrated, right? So when the food ingredient people are saying, hey, we need to make this, specific change to the ingredients, they can pass that message over to the food production people. Say, okay, where do we get these missing ingredients, right? Simple stuff like that, but a connected, integrated network of conversations. And speaking of conversations, welcome to Master Conversationalist James Desmond from Cork City, Ireland. Good to see you, James. I'm going to also address some of the questions popping up in the chat. Let's see. All right. Misha's got some really interesting stuff going on about coconut oil and COVID treatment. Maybe we'll save that for a little later because that's a specialty COVID thing. But it actually makes a very good point that certain foods are really great at treating COVID and preventing COVID. Let's see. Yep, BJ, each week a little different, absolutely. Misha asked if I'm based in St. Louis. No, I was just using it as an example. I'm actually on the west coast of the United States in the state of Washington on Whidbey Island right near Canada. Okay, Brett had to take care of something, so that's cool. All right, any questions or comments? All right, who else would like to share? Going on mute.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you about this kitchen I visited in India. It's called Annamrita. And this is the kitchen that serves midday meals to all the schools in Mumbai, to a lot of schools in Mumbai. So I was just fascinated at the operation, where people are wearing these clean overalls when they walk in, and they put on these caps and these gloves so that nothing can contaminate the food that's being prepared. And then there are these machines that chop veggies, and it's, whatever veggies are available for the day, they just chop that up. And then there are these boilers that cook the lentils and the rice together. These huge boilers, and then they're mixing the spices and the veggies in there, and out comes this stew. I mean, because a lot of Indian spices have been put in there, which it's awesome. Anybody will eat that, not just the kids, the midday meal kids. So I had the pleasure of serving that to the kids that day. And you can see the kids came with their own bowls. They ate the food, and then they were coming back for seconds. So one of the things that Dr. Tushar Mehta was saying about that is, because I mean that meal is entirely vegan. Because for them, it's not that they were vegan, it's not that they were a vegan organization, but from a practical standpoint, they said that as soon as you put some animal product in the food, it goes bad quickly. So if they want to cook something that they can transport to different schools and hand it over and give it, they found out that making it vegan makes it more robust. So it's sort of, nature is forcing them to go vegan, right? So literally. And Dr. Tushar Mehta was saying, the one thing you need to do if you're making food like that, which is vegan, is that after you cook the food, just powder up a bunch of B12 tablets and sprinkle it on the food. So it's simple, right? And so this way, everyone gets all the nutrients that they could possibly need, including the one that we know is missing in vegan food, which is B12. And he said it could be anything, it could be the stuff that you buy at CVS for $4, right? So you can get 100 tablets. So sprinkle, enough so that, because when you put it in every meal, you don't need that much. Your body figures out how much you need and puts it in there. So adding the B12 supplement to the stew is a good thing to do.
That's a great thought about veganism from practicality and logistical point of view. So it's accidentally vegan, incidentally vegan.
Right. There's also less chances of cross-contamination. You have a cleaner kitchen if you don't have any of the animal products, and you leave out all the discomfort, and it's all can be a joy in the kitchen. I imagine that would be, and there's just so many reasons. That sounds beautiful.
Something just occurred to me that this is like one of those problems in life that before it's solved, everyone's just like suffering and confused. And after it's solved, it's just like, that's obvious. What took us so long? When So brought up the example in London of how prior to modern, sewage systems, people would, to put it bluntly, poop in a pot and then throw it out the window, right? And that's just the way it was, right? People weren't particularly happy about it, especially if you're walking along at night and, some stuff lands on your head. But it was just like, that's just the way it is, right? And it's occurring to us now as we think about this, wait a second, with modern agriculture producing, just billions of tons of food extremely economically. Silas and I were looking at the numbers that Silas researched on what would it cost to buy a full truckload equivalent 40 tons of lentils, and the price per pound was like down to pennies. So once we get this going at scale and everyone's eating and everyone's actually okay, right? It's going to be like, what the hell? Why did we wait till 2020? Well, we could have done this in freaking 1920, right? We had the technology, we had the tools, we had everything we needed to do this in 1920. And I think part of it is, see, when you're growing up as a kid, just remember when you first heard about hunger, right, as a kid. You know, it was very, very sad, very sad. And it's just like, you know, and I think all of us, I'm going to step out on a limb here, and BJ, I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. Silas, tell me if I'm right or wrong. But all of us basically kind of made sense of it by saying, well, apparently there's not enough food. Maybe there's not enough food, and maybe there's too many people, and that's too bad. I'm sure glad I have food. I sure hope they get food, but there's no pathway to make sure that happens. You know, and then 1984 came along, and everyone's seeing starving kids on their TV screens, and a bunch of rock bands get together and sing songs about it to raise money, and that's good. But it's like, we've never actually had to hold the solution in our hands. It's a lot to hold, right? And I think part of the reason a lot of people have gotten burned out on the topic is people don't want to fail. They don't want to get their hearts broken repeatedly by trying and trying and trying to feed everyone and it not working, right? I'll just, you know what, instead I'm just going to wall myself into my Manhattan apartment, water my orchids, watch my Netflix, and eat my beef stroganoff or whatever, right? We give up. And compassion fatigue, says Misha, thank you. One of the great things about the conversation, the network, is we learn that we're not alone, right? And we don't have to get fatigued. I give myself breaks, big breaks. I like to work a lot of hours doing this sort of thing and then take a break. So I really think that what we're doing right here is perhaps even more crucial than we may realize, right here, right now, in building this network of conversations and building this planetary community, right? Just on the call today, we've had people from 5 different countries, right? With lots of different perspectives and history and whatnot. We're so close because, again, once we get enough people here involved, we'll get a concentration of resource that we can then direct like a laser beam at whatever city. Silas, if you want to start it there in Arizona, let's start it in Arizona. But let's get the food truck. Let's clean the thing out. Let's get a kitchen. And when we do it, I will stand on top of the food truck, appropriately supported for my own safety. And we will have music playing and I will sing. And if anyone doubts that I can sing in public, I'll play a couple of videos for you.
Okay.
Yeah. No, in fact, I'm going to do it tomorrow here on Whidbey Island. You're going to see me on the main highway of Whidbey Island where all the cars come on and off the ferry and it's all backed up. And I'm going to have a big sign that says criminal drug cartels out of the state of Washington. Right?
Jamin,
Yes, so.
I was singing it in my kitchen the other day. Criminal drug cartels. I was like, very catchy.
It's catchy. It's good stuff. Anyway, but seriously, Silas, if we do it in Arizona, I will come down, I will get on top of the truck, and we'll make a spectacle out of this. And in between songs, we'll make little speeches. Why is there hunger in the world? Because no one has done this yet. And we're doing it now. And we are eradicating hunger. You know, we're going to have on the side of the truck, it can say, there can be an 800 number. 1-800, need food? 1-800, got food? 1-800, got food? Something like that.
Wow.
And we do it in our initial press conference, press release. We say, from this moment forward, there will not be a hungry man, woman, or child, you know, in the city of, pick a city, Silas. You're the one who's there. Mesa, Tempe, name a city. Phoenix, name a city.
Okay, something came to mind. Are you about to talk, Silas?
No.
Okay.
Wait, Silas is about to speak. Everyone shut up. No, I'm just kidding. No, go ahead, BJ.
I want to hear. I was thinking about one of the churches here that would allow us to use a kitchen and inviting people. And because of COVID, I would probably need to be tested first, temperature, and say, look, I don't have it. I'm going in here. I'm going to make this food. I can make a bunch, come by, you make sure you're distancing and bring your own things. I need to be able to store what's left over, or I need to say sign up. So I have an idea. Free food, Wednesday night, come by, how long it lasts, but sign up here and we'll have some soup for you, something like that.
Well, what we're thinking is to actually, and welcome, I don't know, is it, I'm not going to try to say your name, but welcome, ma'am, miss, who just arrived. We're talking about food here in the conversation. So, Rebecca, what I'm proposing, BJ, is that we take it all the way, and from the get-go, we make sure we've got plenty of inventory of lentils and rice and potatoes and all that. And I mean, we basically concentrate resources on one city, right? I sometimes use the analogy of, it's like there's 20 cars stuck over on the side of the road. Each one's in the mud, and each individual car owner is pushing on the back of their own bumper and complaining because they're getting really tired, their muscles are straining, and the car is not moving, right? We're gonna blow a whistle, say, hey, everybody over here, let's get all 20 folks together. We're gonna push this car out of the mud, okay? Then we're gonna push the next car out of the mud and the next car out of the mud. And when your car out of the mud, don't go driving right away. Come back to the group and help get the other cars out of the mud, the ones who help you. We're gonna concentrate our resources and get the first car out of the mud. I'm just gonna call it Mesa, Arizona, right? We concentrate our resources in Mesa, Arizona. We get the truck, we get the kitchens, we get the food, we get the money, and we eradicate hunger in Mesa, Arizona. Guess what? That is news.
Oh yeah, we want to focus it big time. On the other hand, when something's happening here and now, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, you got to give something when somebody's there.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying to stop all the current efforts that are going and just do this.
But no, the big focus will make the big news, and the people will donate, people will be fed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we started as a planetary organization. And when communities around the world say, hey, how do we join? How do we become a part of this? How do we get this here? We say, just join the conversation. And in the conversation, see, that's when you get millions of people streaming in, right? That's why it's so important that we set up this structure to receive the millions coming in and channel them, right? There'll be a whole section on Africa. There will be whole sections of the network for each continent. There'll be a whole section of the network on Africa, Australia, South America, you name it, every part of the world, and then by country, and then by state, county, town, down to the tiniest township, right? Hey, there's a little township off in this arid region of South Africa. They're not being cared for. Okay, let's get a group formed around that and get the problem solved, right? But we'll start one city at a time, but make it such a big movement that everyone's jumping in, and it simply becomes the coolest thing on earth to be a part of, is the eradication of hunger. And once we've eradicated hunger, we will never go back.
I put the link for the organization in India. It's called Annamrita. So it's actually run by ISKCON, so they've been very active during COVID-19. So they claim to have fed 16.9 million people, the migrant workers who lost their jobs and they're going back home. So they've been feeding them along the way. So it's run by ISKCON, ISKCON. And so it was their kitchen that I went to in Mumbai. It's basically an industrial kitchen with boilers, cooking food. Like what you would find probably in a food preparation industry, right? Where they're making all these foods to package and send to you in little things. Here they were making it and putting it in big pots and taking it to the schools with a ladle, then serving.
Yeah, so the model is there. We just
Mhm.
need to put the appropriate packaging on it, right? When I got into the cannabis industry in late 2012, I had barely consumed any cannabis in my life up to that point. Vice.com wrote an article about me called The 40-Year-Old Pot Virgin, right? And and you know, so here's this ex-Microsoft guy suddenly, you know, creating the world's first premium brand of cannabis based on the legacy of my great-grandfather, Diego Pellicer, who was the largest grower of hemp in the world, based in the Philippines in the late 1800s in the island of Cebu, right? Thank you, Misha. And but here's my point. People had been smoking weed for decades, centuries, millennia, literally, right? But it hadn't become a big story because it was all kind of quiet and people are kind of ashamed of it. Sound like hunger? People are ashamed of it. People don't really like to talk about it. We don't like to acknowledge that it exists. When I proposed to Bill Gates a solution for how we could end hunger, he wasn't interested, right? So people avoid it. Here, what I did when I jumped in late 2012, I took it head on, put out a press release, invited the media, told my story, and people were hungry for that story. People are hungry for this story. They're hungry for food, but they're also hungry for this story. We have a saying in Mexico when we sit down to eat: dales pan a los que tienen hambre, y hambre de ti a los que tenemos pan. Give bread to those who are hungry, God. And sorry. Give bread to those who are hungry, and give hunger for you for those of us who have bread. We're going to give food for those who are hungry, and we're going to give a hunger for this story to those who have food. They're going to be hungry for this story. And to know that, you know what? The solution is happening. And everybody likes to cheer for a winning team, right? And I remember in the mid 1980s, the Oakland A's, the baseball team wasn't doing that good. You know, my dad's girlfriend, a friend of hers, husband was on the city council, so we got free tickets. So, you know, I'd go to the games and I'd enjoy the games, but not that many people were showing up in the mid 1980s when the Oakland A's weren't doing that good. Late 1980s, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, Gallego, all those superstars. Whoa, stadium was packed, totally packed, right? I'm not even sure I had free tickets at that point. They were so popular. That's how this is going to go. Hunger is this beaten down, sorry issue that no one wants to look at. Once we start taking city after city and we're victorious, right? Then people are going to start coming and joining and cheering. We got to make this massively popular. We got to start in one city. It's real
Great.
simple. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Misha.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love it. When you were talking, in my mind, I was thinking, you know, since it's not a top of mind issue for some people, maybe a campaign for the faces of hunger might be something. Because I mean, up until this point, you know, at least for me, I'm just talking. It's like all COVID, you know, and you know the bunglings of our governments, you know, in handling it. But you know, hunger, not how do you call it? Yeah, I mean, it's not in the headlines, right? It's not, at least from where I'm at right now. I mean, people get fed, but you know, you don't really see the faces of hunger and malnutrition. You know, so that appeal, I guess, of it. And then what also came to mind is I remember reading something about you know, how they had to get these scientists and nutritionists together after the Holocaust, because remember, right, when they got to rescue all of these you know, these prisoners from the Holocaust, they were skeletons with skin on them, right? And they had to find a way to, you know, to scientifically and medically restore them to health. You know, it wasn't as if you could give them a cheeseburger and say, hey, you know, let's eat this, you know, roast beef or burger and you'll be fine, right? But they had to really study it
Yeah, you know,
scientifically and medically.
and start with serum, you know, start with something that they drink, and then slowly, like really soft, you know, porridge or something like. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, so I guess I'm thinking of like, at least if we're gonna do like a video campaign or something like that, maybe start with the faces of hunger. You know, if you're targeting a specific city, you know, what does hunger look like in your city? You know, so are there beggars on the streets? You know, people living off the streets. You know, people, on coupons. People, who had to skip a meal or only eat one meal a day, and have no choice because of the pandemic. And, you know, general poverty. Maybe, you know, they were already malnourished before the pandemic hit. And then over time, like a before and after sort of thing. So I think it would be great, you know. So pick someone who you know, is really medically malnourished, and, you know, through the program over like a couple of weeks to a couple of months, you know, to see that before and after. I think that would really be, you know, that would really show people what it does. You know, it's not just about, you know, you have a meal and you're you know, you can sleep at night because, you know, you have something in your stomach, but a feeding program. Yeah, a feeding program where right, I mean, this is how the WHO and how they do it here in the Philippines, right? You know, they weigh the kids. They weigh the kids before, feed them, weigh them after. Okay, guys, you know, here's some literature, here's some vitamins. Come back next week, you know, we'll do the same thing. And then they chart their progress over, you know, as long as the duration is concerned. So I think that would be nice, just to track the progress of people. And you can have like select individuals. You can have Vice cover it if you want. You know, since you know they covered you already, you know, hey, the 30-year-old pot burner feeding people, since, you know, they got all hungry from all the from all the THC. So, you know, you're giving them something to eat this time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so exactly, that's a great example. Everything you're just saying, a lot of that are great examples of what should be in the marketing conversation about this. Imagine there's enough of us that there's just a focused marketing conversation, a focused nutrition conversation, agriculture, logistics, finance, government, PR, relationships with religious organizations, relationships with the nonprofit sector, aside from religious organizations, on and on and on. I mean, there are dozens of facets of this that need to be mastered. Here's an analogy. If I want to ride a bicycle, I need for all 247 parts of the bicycle to be there. Take away the seat, I've got a problem. Take away the handlebars, I got a problem. Take away the front brake, I've got a big problem. So what I'm suggesting is, here we are dreaming about having a bicycle, but in order to get there from here, we need 247 rooms, mastering the 247 parts, all of which need to be there in order for this to work. Now, for city number one, we might get away with a dozen meetings on a dozen different topics, because we're talking about just getting it launched for one city. But as it grows, the network will grow. But the city is where we make the bang. One city. And we send a message to the whole world. We've solved it here in Mesa, Arizona, and now we're coming for you. Right? So watch out. You know, the food healers are coming. Right? The who? What is it? Some violent criminal? No. It's not a terrorist organization. It's people that just want to feed people who are hungry. And everyone's going to embrace that. Everyone's going to embrace that. Even Jeff Bezos is going to get choked up and say, oh my God, they've actually found a solution. Okay, now where's my checkbook? Right? This I can get behind because it's so darn efficient. It's addressing everyone. It's not hurting anyone or anything. To the contrary, we're saving the lives of billions of animals by going vegan. We're saving the oceans by not using a bunch of single-use plastic, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And we're saving humanity as a whole, right? We're so fragmented, so separated from each other. And that's become the new normal. And this will bring us back together when we're all eating the same food. Because here's the thing, we're going to get award-winning chefs in there who are going to be like, a little more basil. Okay. A little more oregano. Okay. Perfect. You know, and they'll be part of the press conference, you know, with their big belly and their big chef hat and everything. And we'll feed the stew to everyone at the press conference. Down to the last cameraman, gaffer, microphone gal, whatever. First, we're going to eat and then we'll talk, because you need to taste this. Before you need to hear a single word from our mouths, you need to taste this. And then imagine the images, all these press people and everything with all their funky equipment eating stew and saying, wow, this is really good, right? And probably the first question is going to be, this is so simple. What took us so long? That's going to be the question. And what are we waiting for to implement this all around the world? We'll put out the challenge. And then community leaders in every city and town around the world will see an opportunity here to put their leadership to good use, ending hunger. This doesn't have to be hard. Oh, by the way, Ray's written some cool stuff. Welcome, Ray. I'm not sure, I don't think I welcomed you yet. Welcome, Ray. And welcome, Terry, who's just joining. How's it going there, Ray? All right. And welcome, Terry. We're having a conversation about healing the world through feeding everyone, food healers.
I remember when I first learned about hunger was when I didn't want to eat my food and my parents would tell me about the starving kids in Africa. And I said, well, I don't want to eat this, so put it in an envelope and send it to them. And I specifically remember it was steak that they were giving me, because I remember visually putting steak into an envelope and putting a stamp on it. But it's all blended in with this memory of you know, being forced to eat meat because I needed it. And it was something that I naturally didn't like as a child. And it's caused me to form this bologna hypothesis. Kids like bologna, but it's really the meat that is most like fruit, right? It's got the texture of something that you don't have to chew very hard, and your teeth seem to be able to handle it really well, whereas steak can be a struggle. It's my bologna theory. The fruit of meat.
You discovered logistics early on, or thought about it in terms of getting food where it needs to be.
I think that is such a big issue, isn't it? Because we've got to completely transform our food systems. They're absolutely not fit for purpose. And I'm not, you know, when I've brought up different things about our food systems, some joker always says, what about the indigenous people who can't stop them eating fish? And I just say, well, look, there's nothing to do with what I'm saying. I'm talking about the industrial food system that supplies most of us. It's just a kind of going off on a tangent when people do that. It's not addressing the issue. We've got massive food safety issue, food security issue. All we need is a multi-breadbasket failure, and it's game over for a lot of us. And it's very close to that. Somebody was talking to me from Canada about these. They've got plagues of moths that are eating all the trees. He's a farmer, and he a lot of people around the world are already suffering these problems, and all it will take is a couple of the world's bread baskets, and it's all game over. So this really leads into the whole sustainability growing thing. Do you know what? Something you said, Silesh, really sticks in my head, and I keep quoting you if you don't mind. I'd say this Indian vegan guy said, and he said that when he was a kid, he came from India. Is it South India? He said the concept of buying food was absolutely just ridiculous. Nobody would have thought of buying food, and we've got to get back to that, really.
One of the things you mentioned there was the idea of indigenous people living their traditional lifestyles. More than half of the indigenous people in Canada live in cities now, so it's become a bit of a dilemma of whether they're forced to live there. But in general, I've my entire activism career has been bridging this gap between veganism and environmentalism. And to hear white environmentalists pretend that they're in solidarity with indigenous people because they resist veganism is ridiculous to me. That's almost like hiding behind them, hiding behind indigenous culture because your privileged white lifestyle.
Yeah, actually, Ray, that was exactly it. The guy who came out with that recently said, what about the indigenous people? I was so furious because he was a very white, very privileged guy who not only had a home, he had a boat, he was going off on, and he was using this silly thing about the indigenous people and their food, which I hadn't mentioned at all, as a way of slashing my vegan argument, because I always said that I'm not going to be a militant vegan, but he was really annoying me. So I said, go vegan, go now, stop messing about, just get on with it. That's what I said to him. And then I got this indigenous reply.
And it's really, less than moral. But they see this opportunity to use the language of solidarity. I can't go vegan because I am fighting pipelines, and there's this obvious alliance to save the environment, and indigenous people are fighting for their hunting grounds. So how can a vegan fight with somebody for hunting grounds, right? So they think they've got this magic reason why they can continue their dirty habits, and really that's all of it.
Right,
That's exactly what they want. They want an excuse to.
I was talking with James the other night. He said something that really opened things up for me. Right, I keep meeting these activists, and they will go on a demonstration. They are activists. They will get out of their armchair. However, you put them like a concrete thing you need doing as part of campaigning, a real thing, right? That you want them to do. They're there on the social media. They're putting these weak opinions that they keep putting out, and then you say, will you do this? Because I'm doing this for a campaign. Will you do this? You can do it all remotely now. And they say things like, I will have to think about that. Well, how much bloody time do they think we've got on this planet? He's an old guy anyway. He's going to die soon anyway, And he's always going on about Greta and stuff. But I was having a rant and moan about it to James, and he said he's probably probably only going on the demonstrations to get a girl.
Yeah, I'll say this. A lot of the topics that are coming up now are what I'll call sideshow topics, right? The main stage is really simple. As Silas has mentioned, latest studies predict that we'll have 1.6 billion people food insecure by the end of this year, a doubling from what we had at the end of last year. And the main stage is really simple. We've got to feed everyone. And of course, it'll be plant-based. And that's simply the best way to get the world to go plant-based, is to feed them plant-based foods. It's so simple, because this story will be so powerful, because everyone will want to know, well, what are you feeding them? Well, plant-based foods, of course. Well, why? And then we tell them why. No drama, no anger, no shaming, no judgment. That's why. It's very practical.
Yeah, it's like you just do it because these people are a distraction. They're wasting the time. They're wasting your voice. You just do it. It's nothing. Then they let them sit in their armchairs. They can do that. They can get on with that, and then just get out there and do it.
And just to finish off that idea of why would indigenous people and vegans have any sort of alliance, any sort of coalition? Well, vegans can help grow forests back. Vegans can restore those natural areas of the world. The non-vegan white environmentalists can't do that. All they could do is contribute to more deforestation. It's a conversation that's, down the road somewhere that where there's a safe space to talk about it, because I don't think the majority of the indigenous community is ready to talk about veganism. And if we see the white environmentalists using it as a crutch, as an excuse to avoid veganism because it's not in line with the fighting against renewables, fighting against pipelines, and so forth, that kind of thinking is poisonous, and it's going to infect their ability to see this possible alliance and this ability to break the colonial system that is no friend to theirs. And there's no bigger piece, whether they realize it or not, there's no bigger piece of the colonial puzzle than our food system.
That's right. And the two big bad wolves of our current food system are carnivorism and you only get to eat if you have money. And by delivering plant-based food to everyone, we eliminate both of those. And we do it in a very big, bold way, because as soon as we do this, everyone's going to look at us and say, who the heck are you guys? And they're going to hear, well, I'm Dr. Silas Rao. Here's my granddaughter, Kamaya. Her friends call her K-Mama. And this is who we are. And then the next question is going to be, hey, Donald Trump, hey, U.S. government, why the heck didn't you do with all your trillions what these folks have done with just coming together and pooling limited resources and just doing the right thing, right? It's going to put the pressure on everyone. This raises the bar for every city and town and community around the world. Absolutely raises the bar. And speaking of raising the bar, my brother James has raised his hand and been very patient. Go for it, James.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I was just going to say there, because I mentioned you all mentioned the loss of multi-bread baskets, and I'm not sure if any of you caught Paul Beckwith's video there over the last 2 days. Now he put out a quick short, just mentioning that he'd be putting out a longer version of the video. So he did a 6-minute video on the side of a dual carriageway in the pouring rain, and he done a longer version of it the next day, then 15-20 minutes long. But basically what he's saying is that new studies have come out now this year, and that there are problems with the jet stream, that the jet stream is settling into certain patterns which they know about already, but they're very unusual and very rare patterns that they set into. And there's a wave 5 and a wave 7 pattern. He describes it better and explains it better in the video. But basically what he's saying is that it's looking highly likely that we're in for multi-breadbasket failures this year, if guaranteed next year, but this year alone, in not only in the Northern Hemisphere, in America, North America, Europe, and Asia, are all going to be hit at the same time because of this wave, jet stream wave, where it's going to place massive heat waves on top of North America, Europe, Eastern Europe, and China, Asia. So they're expecting multi-breadbasket failures at this year into next year anyway. So the 2 million figure, or 2 billion figure of hungry people has just gone up, increased dramatically as far as I'm concerned. And you know, with what's going on in China now, 46 days of non-stop rain and storms, over 10 earthquakes in the last week alone. You know, it's you know, the locusts have spread now from Eastern Asia, or the Middle East and Africa. They've spread into Asia, and they're spreading across the world. It's becoming a world epidemic of locusts now, as well as destroying crops, as well as the floods then all over. China is decimated at the moment, and you know, people aren't getting this on the mainstream news at all. You have to go search it, individually search these stories yourself, because these algorithms on YouTube are keeping them away from the main people's eye. You know, they're not on what's popular in the news and the mainstream. You know, you have to search for it. Either way, anyway, look up Paul Beckwith's latest video there this week, and you'll get a better explanation than I can give. But it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all for the food. That's being quite honest. So what we're doing here is even more significant now. And what we're doing also is something that somebody else just described recently as well on another show I was looking at. And he was saying it's not only the fact that people are unaware of the problems we're facing shortly. It's not only the fact now that the problems are not, they're not guesses or anything else. It's coming our way, and it's coming our way fast. What we need to do now is not even try to plan to how to stop it, but we need to start making plans of how we are going to live with it. And this is what we're doing here. We're already planning to deal with situations before they arise. And that is what you have to do in any situation. I don't understand it myself in a sense, because from the get-go, since the world was, you know, created or whatever else, the simplest and most urgent priorities for human beings was shelter and food. And yet we can send things to Mars, we can do all sorts of ingenious things, and we still haven't figured that fucking one out. Like, so I don't understand it myself, but we definitely need to, you know, keep going where we're going, keep going with this plan, because at least when the shit starts hitting the fan, and we can put our hands up and say, well, look, we've been working on this all along. We've been ignored by the powers that be and everything else. But you can all see now, folks, we're all on the ground, we're all on our own. Powers that be, they're only scuttling for their own power positions, that's all. They're only chasing after their own egos and their own, you know, looking out for themselves as the rest of us don't come into the equation. We're on our own, we have to fix this ourselves. And this is the way to do it. It's as simple as that. Thanks.
Thank you, James. That's quite scary. I mean, we know that it's coming if we don't move, and we don't know when. The other thing I think to remember is that we will need to be gentle with each other as we move into this, you know, as things change, no matter which direction it goes. Yeah.
I agree 100%, and that is why I sit here and talk to these fine people like yourselves and everybody else, because we are dealing with this holistically on the Bloc Party, and have been for 22 weeks of conversations. And it's the only way to deal with it is holistically. Sit down and talk about the situation and see, okay, this could possibly arise, and this could possibly arise. Let's implement something to deal with that when it does arise. And if it doesn't arise, at least we still had a plan for it anyway in the meantime. Not wait for the problems to happen like Humpty Dumpty has been doing all the time, and then decide to ignore it or you know, basically say it's not happening. We can't do that. Like, we can't close our eyes. We can't stick our heads back in the sand anymore. You know what I mean? We have to just basically get on with ourselves. No, I think.
Yeah, I would add, so to tie these two topics together, you know, the exponential planetary overheating with the latest symptoms that you've indicated, James, if we do not stop, if we do not put a ceiling on that and actually reverse the overheating, all this will be for naught. And so for me personally, the big strategy that I'm most drawn to is, let's get this Food Healers thing underway in a big way. Do the press release, the press conference, get the story, get that rolling. As we do that, that'll draw the world into conversation around this. And as the world jumps into the conversation, we increasingly bring to the forefront, in parallel with all the great food deliveries that were going on, we're going to deliver information of exactly what's happening and that there is a solution, and it's called solar radiation management. And as the world organizes itself to feed everyone, that will be training wheels for the world organizing herself to cool the planet through planetary scale solar radiation management, which most people don't even know about. For me, that's the big picture strategy. Bring the world together around food. Once we're all together and our bellies are full, let's get out there and go to work and cool the planet through massive planetary scale SRM projects, which will require massive funding, volunteers, et cetera, et cetera. But first and foremost, the conversation, because if we don't get together and do this, nothing's going to happen. Everything starts with a conversation, right? If we were all joining Silas on a Saturday morning to deliver a bunch of food to a bunch of people, the first thing we'd do is we'd all meet together. And Silas would say, great, welcome everyone. Breakfasts are on the table. Here's the plan for the day. Any questions, any comments, da-da-da. We'd have a conversation. We'd have some food, we'd have a conversation, and then we'd get out there and go to work. That's exactly what we're doing here with this network of conversations. So thank you all for being here and being a part of it. And bring all your friends and family and everyone you know, because we need everyone here. And right now, as James pointed out, we're almost out of time.
Well, I just put up the link there now for the video, the very short video where he stopped on the side of the road there the other night or last week. It's only less than 2 minutes actually, but he gives a brief explanation for what's happening, and then he gives a longer version video the next day. So it'd be interesting just put that one up for a minute. It's only a minute and a half anyway, Jeremy.
Yeah. Let me share it. Let me do that. 1 second. Just got to get it pulled up here. Here it goes.
Hello, I'm Paul Beckwith, and I've been tracking some thunderstorms moving to the southwest from Ottawa, and I had to stop along the highway because I thought I could punch out through the storm and get ahead of it, but it seemed to speed up, so I had to stop along with all of these other cars because some hail started, very, very small hail. I could see it on the radar, so I was wary of it, but it wasn't exactly in the position that the radar told me. It was a little bit earlier. So anyway, I just stopped, a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder, a lot of heavy rainfall, but no tornadoes. There was a lot of structure underneath the clouds, but not enough rotation to trigger a tornado. So anyway, this is a perfect location for a video, so I think I'll talk about the jet streams.
I wonder if he talked about the jet streams in the next video, James.
Well, he did give a brief. I don't know what happened with that one, though, because he did give a better explanation. I'll put in the other link for the other one once I get them out.
Sure, James, sure. Yeah, but the bottom line is we're almost out of time. And I just keep beating my drum. People, we need to come together, right? That's why we're here, right? And let's keep coming together and let's keep bringing more people. I don't know any other way other than getting humanity together. 1% of, yeah, go ahead, James.
That link is there now, Jim, and sorry for interrupting.
Oh, no problem. Okay, let me pull that up. Make sure it's ready. Okay.
That's about 15 minutes long or something, so you might want to skip it forward about 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, I'll skip forward to minute 5, and we'll just play, a few minutes just till we get a taste of it.
Hello, I'm Paul Beckwith, and in this video, look at yesterday's, so July 2nd, 6 o'clock report. It should be on there, or actually the interview was at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but then it'll be on all the news reports after that. So if I find it, I'll put a link in my video. But I was talking about the electronic waste problem as well as the globe. It's hard to see here. There definitely that's Global E-Waste 2020. Earth Null School. 250 millibar wind speed. You can see the jet streams here. So just to give you an idea, like here's a ridge and a trough. There's a small ridge and another trough. That's 2 patterns. Trough here, maybe slight ridge. It's hard to tell here, it's so distorted, but trough here, maybe slight ridge, trough here, slight ridge, trough here. Definitely a ridge here and a trough here. So if you count the recurring patterns around the globe, you can get an idea for the wave number, okay? The number of wavelengths that are circumventing the globe. It's hard to see here because it's so distorted. And also I just wanted to emphasize here as well, if you look at the temperature at the surface, this is over the Arctic right now. So anything green is above 0, and we're continuing an ongoing heat wave in Siberia, and you can cycle back in days and see how things have changed. And then you can associate. But whenever you have heat like this going up into the Arctic, there'll definitely be a strong ridge here in the jet stream, allowing heat to go from lower latitudes up into this region. It'll be a trough here, and so on. Okay, so you can correlate the ridges and troughs with where the heat appears. Okay, so let's go to the papers, the specific papers. So this was recently published, and basically, in an interconnected world, we can get simultaneous extreme weather events in distant regions that give a high-end risk for societies. Okay, so when we get a ridge over North America and a ridge over Europe and a ridge over Asia, they are connected, right? They're connected because they're all part of the same strongly meandering.
I've stopped sharing. We get the idea, and I think that's worth watching the whole video. We just have 15 minutes left in this segment, and then we'll shift to the next segment, which is the Divine Feminine. Thank you so much for pointing that out, James. As I watch that, what comes to mind is, how could we be so stupid, right? We as humans, to not stop and say, whoa, we need to do something about this. Well, here's how. Up until now, we have not had the proper framework for a conversation, for a network of conversations to address this. We have collectively put all of our faith in national governments, militaries, and a global economic system based on money and hoarding. Right. And we've just been, mindlessly dancing the Macarena, song after song, just dancing the same Macarena and wondering why things are so screwed up. The way to stop dancing is to join right here. And I'm so glad you're all here. Humanity, we need to come together and keep coming together and come together more and more and better and better. And when I say better and better, I'm talking about exactly what we're pioneering right here. A network of conversations that is hyper-connected, integrated, and works like a well-oiled machine. We need to crank out all the solutions that we need. Food healers solutions, solar radiation management to cool the planet, among thousands of others. So the starting point is right here. What do you all think about that? I mean, I keep saying this, but am I crazy? Am I stupid? You know, is the answer just to vote for Donald Trump and forget about all these conversations? I mean, where are people at? I'd just love to hear. BJ, go for it.
I was going to ask what to do next. And so I think coming here and having these conversations then gives us many points to consider so that we're all together on it. So I loved your idea of the food truck, and I love what Salish is doing with the boxes of food. What is the next step for, what is the next step? And I'd like to hear from everybody also on that, or on yours comment too, Jamin. Thanks.
Another good thing about conversation is that it's exercise for the mind, and there's so much, you know, crusty, old world thinking that we have to break from the mainstream. I mean, we're so comfortable in the mainstream, and when we talk about radical things, sometimes we talk about it with excitement and go, ooh, we're going to get radical about this particular thing. But it's usually just one thing. Not, you know, a radical change of society. That's scary for most people. And most people don't use the word radical at all. They assign it to other people who get arrested and stuff like that. So, yeah, even I had a conversation with my mother-in-law while we were driving around, who's definitely in that mindset of all those Greenpeace people. They get arrested all the time. I was kind of circling around to, you know, I'm an activist, right? I haven't been arrested, but, you know, maybe that's a sign that I haven't been trying hard enough, is what I didn't say, because I knew that would come across, you know, too extreme for some people. Usually the older generation, unless they happen to be hippies in the 60s, which one of my dad's cousin who lives in Toronto, she's more open to those kinds of ideas and would like to get back into that mindset. And really, we need to drag forward a lot of that 60s. We could have had so much more progress in the 60s if we had the internet, if we had the ability to bring our ideas together the way that we do now. It's such an important piece of the puzzle, and we've noted that. Imagine MLK with the internet. Imagine Gandhi with the internet. The world would be completely different. So yeah, getting the conversation going and shifting everybody in there towards radical solutions, because complacency is obviously not the answer, and it's we take security in things like the military. We think that, well, if we've got the biggest military, then we're safe, right? How do you take that mindset of what makes you safe is to make friends with the rest of the world, and to use that money to find security in food and survival rather than having the most bombs.
Well, I would agree definitely there, Ray, anyway, that we're definitely trying to run a world on with archaic rules, old rules. We're trying to run a totally, you know, we have an unsettled future ahead of us where we can barely predict know what's going to be coming down the line, and yet we're still trying to run the world with archaic rules of the past. I mean, it's like buying an electric car and trying to pour petrol in the window to get it to go. Like, you know what I mean? It's oxymoron, like what's happening. As regards for voting for Trump, I'm not an American. I don't want to kind of put too much on emphasis on that political situation because I'm from Ireland, not from America. But at the same time, I'm a world citizen. I'm a global citizen, and I see that man is not only destroying your country, he's destroying everything that was worked for around the world as well. The Paris Treaty, the Paris Agreement, the nuclear agreements, the Iran-Contra agreements. He's trying to stop everything. He's trying to backlash on everything the Democrats have ever done before that was for the better good of the people. So as regards for voting for that man, all I can say is old Humpty Trumpty is about to fall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men will never put that man together again. So it's as simple as that. Like, there's no point going down that road anyway. I mean, if I had my way, I wouldn't vote in for one member of politics that was it, and that includes this country, that was ever sat in the position of politics before. I'd have to get rid of the whole lot of them, and we'd have to start off again. We'd be better off putting children in there because the children seem to be speaking more sense than the adults at the moment. So, as far as I'm concerned, we need to change our fucking way of thinking because our way of living is about to change drastically.
James, do you know about the Citizens Assembly movement? Check out Citizens Assemblies.
I've heard of it, yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, because that's the political, like the jury system, and like the original democracy system, it's argued that, you know, is the fairest one, and the people, you know, like the jury service, the people come to the decisions after being informed by experts very carefully, and then they thrash it out over, you know, different periods. I mean, you had a big one in Ireland over the abortion issue. That was the Citizens Assembly. It was very effective.
I want to say welcome to Sue, who joined us a little bit ago. Hello, Sue. Do you have anything you wanted to say? It looked like you did a moment ago.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I wanted to reply to Jamin. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
About, you know, getting humanity all together. And, you know, there's several organizations that are talking about equality in the time of COVID and Black Lives Matter and how unequal our food systems are and our financial systems are and how unequal everything is. But they don't have the vegan component because they don't know about it, or they don't know to focus on it, or something. And so I think getting humanity all together in these conversations that y'all are doing, we need to converse with other organizations that are on the same compassionate equality path that y'all are on, like Yes Magazine and my email, the Climate Strike people. You know, they're putting Black Lives Matter in with climate. You know, it's all an equality thing, and you know, a sharing economy instead of that money capitalist economy that we've got. And vegan fits right in there, but nobody's talking about it. So we just need more vegan voice in other organizations. That's it. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Sue.
I just want to test out an idea about what Jane said about Donald Trump and how he has taken us on a bad course. I mean, he obviously has, but just in the context of what I was saying about what if in the 60s we had the internet, what if we were able to organize a lot better in the 60s? What happened since the 60s was a suppression of absolutely everything, a watering down of anything radical. Sailesh and I were trying to think of heroes from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and now we're starting to see them again in the up to 2020. What happened to those decades? And the way that Trump fits into this is that he's really pulled back the curtain on how corrupt and how just not even how corrupt, how much we've given away our power. It's not corruption if we go, yeah, okay, you build your economy and you've got to control, you've got it all under control. If Hillary had been elected instead, we'd still be largely asleep. A lot of us have become awake because of Trump. The day after he was elected, there was, how many people with the pink hats on for his inauguration, or I guess it was the day after the inauguration. That was, the biggest showing of feminism in the world has ever seen. Unfortunately, it kind of diluted the next day, but people still have those hats. So when are they going to put them on again? Put them on every once in a while. So people start to identify as activists, as people who are going to start changing the world rather than trusting people. Trusting the government has their best interests at heart. So the idea of electing a billionaire to represent the people, to run the country like a business, okay, we tried it. And I remember somebody saying that Trump is no friend to the deep state because he's taken the curtain and pulled it back and showed how everything works. What if the corporatocracy got everything it wanted? And I think he's overplayed the hand and has awakened up a lot of people. I remember on election night saying, well, this is a lemon, so what are the lemonade that we could serve out of this? And it's people taking power back, knowing, if you're an environmentalist, forget any sort of climate policy. Policy is not where you're going to get your victories. It's going to be shifting people and saying, look at the government. It's not going to be your savior. You are going to have to do it yourself.
Ray, have you heard that some academics are proposing that instead of calling this the Anthropocene, we now call it the Capitalocene, but put a B in and you've got the Capitalocene. So I think we should go with that one.
Well, my basic opinion on it anyway in governments is simple as a democratic society basically is the people electing a body of people to help run the country and look out for the people's best interests. And that's like a democratic society. But what we've done, as Ray said, is we handed the power over. And what we've done is basically we've allowed corporates to dictate who's put into government. Even though we have the illusion of a democratic society, and I'm not talking about in America, I'm talking about all over the world. Even though we believe that we have democratic right to vote and vote in who's going to be, representing us best or as best they can, it doesn't work out that way. We're just given the vote. It's all a pretense in the end of the day, because the people that get in are the people who are backed by the corporates. So we've given our power over to the corporates. I believe that no politician should have any financial backing when he's going for an election. He should stand up and speak his mind and say, this is what I stand for. If you think I'm right and if you think that I should be put in a position like to represent you, then vote for me. Simple and plain. There should be no electronic voting. It's too easily tampered with. We go back to the old way because the whole world's going to revert back to the old way anyway, regardless, because we'll have no other choice. But the point is that our democratic right, and as a society, as a global society, has been taken away from us without us even realizing it. We should not have any politicians who are financed by the global economic societies, because all they're doing is basically they're a bunch of King Midases, simple and plain. All they want is to enrich themselves, enrich themselves, enrich themselves. And the politicians have jumped on the same bandwagon. They get enriched, they get positions of power, and they look after the corporates and fuck the people. So that's the way it goes. So I think they should all be gotten rid of, because they're a bunch of archaic assholes that are running us into the ground. They should all be gotten rid of, simple and plain, and let the people stand up and say, I would like to represent the people in my community, and this is what I propose I would try to do on my utmost best to do. And if the people agree with that, then vote for them. But get the corporates out of there and get rid of the criminals that are running the world into the ground at the moment. Otherwise, we're all in the shit. Sorry for the language. I'm Irish.
All
Hey, you're
right.
good, man. You can swear all you want. At least for me. Okay, I'll just speak for myself. You know? I'm
All
not
right.
sure.
Well, if it's good with Misha, then it's good with everyone, right? All right. Well, it's the top of the hour, and we're about to pivot to the next segment, a 2-hour segment that we do every Friday. It's from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time, called The Divine Feminine. And before I pass the microphone to my queen, Melissa, to my sister, Jackie, who will then introduce our distinguished guest, Miss Judy Carmen. Before we go to that, and welcome, Judy. Very happy to see you here. I just wanted to make a couple of announcements that, as I wrote out in the email last night, we're now merging the 24-hour block party with The Conversation, which is a network of conversations. And we actually have talked about having this main room be kind of like the lounge, and then have a breakout room for specific segments. It feels to me like it's probably better that we just all stay here in this one room now and not divide ourselves up. But I just wanted to give a heads up that seems to be the direction we're heading, especially as more and more people come pouring in, wanting to talk about different topics. Okay, Misha, sounds like you need to get some sleep there, buddy. Great to see you, and keep coming. Keep coming back. Our goal is to get to 24/7 with this as soon as we can.
Keep me in the loop. You have my email address, and that's the same email address that should pull up my Facebook.
Okay. Yep. And I'll add you to the email list, and
Okay.
but just keep coming back right here. Same link. So far we're Monday through Friday, but aiming for 24/7 as soon as we can get there.
Yeah, and then I'll try and see if I can get some like coconut products, for your stews and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Great ingredient to have.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Heck yeah.
All right.
All righty. So yeah, all right, Misha. Great to see you, and we'll
Thanks.
see you next time.
Guys. Happy weekend.
Take care. Be well.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya. And so, but just to give people a heads up, if we do all stay in one room, from time to time, people may be coming in who are, don't necessarily know what we're doing. So we'll just handle that as best we can, if we need to. But I think by default, we'll just do our thing and let people roll in, and, they'll get up to speed as they do. So Jackie and sweetheart, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to take a break, or are we ready to jump in?
I'll let you guys call it because I'm just joining now. Jackie, do you need a break? Does everyone need a break, or you want to just roll?
I'm fine, but I just joined also, so whatever everyone else wants to do.
I say we just get rolling. Why, why not? I've had my break, so I'm good. Obviously, if people need to break, they can break. And but yeah, okay. Here, let me stop the previous recording.